Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021, and I call this public hearing meeting of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees to order at exactly 5:31. Roll call. Mr. Ramiro Moreno, present. Ms. Janie Lopez.
Present.
Mr. Oscar Medrano.
Present.
Mr. Rudy Corona.
Present.
Dr. Ariel Cruz.
Present.
Mr. Orlando Lopez.
Present.
Mr. Mario Silva.
Present.
Dr. Nate Carmen.
Present.
Mr. Stephen Weller.
Present.
Thank you. Next, we have item 1.2, public comment, and for this public hearing meeting, we have one public comment, and it comes to us by Mr. Adan Oseguera. Basically, it's very short. He states, "Thank you, Superintendent, Board President, and Board Trustees for your time and the opportunity for my questions and comments to be heard. Questions for public hearing. What is the number of pupils for 2021 versus 21-22? Were some of the per pupil expenditures numbers rounded? Why are we spending $660,000 less on curriculum and professional development? What are the factors in the decreases for maintenance operations and total expenditures? Will federal funds make up for some of these decreases?" Mr. Oseguera, your questions have been heard. Thank you. With that said, there is no more public comment for this public hearing meeting, so we move on to agenda item 2.1, discussion on adopting the budget for the 2021-2022 school year.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The copies that were given out on Friday have changed on one of the sheets. Does anybody need a copy of that since it's been updated?
It's updated on board docs, though,
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So today's public hearing meeting is going to be discussing the proposed budget for the 21-22 school year. The first sheet is an introduction of our budget. We have three funds that we budget and adopt at the board level. That is the Child Nutrition Fund, and that total is $10,001,770. The local funds, which includes Fund 161, 162, 163, 191, and 199, that is $107,237,619. And the next one is the debt service, and that's Fund 598 and 599 for a total of $8,174,257 for a total of $125,413,646. So in the packet that you have, the next sheet is the proposed budget. Everything after that is informational and is meant to substantiate all the information that is on this very first sheet. And so you will have columns that say child nutrition, general fund, and debt service. So on that first slide that I have here, the top part is the revenues. So the important part to note is that our budget is a balanced budget, which means our revenues equal out our expenditures. So the total of revenues that we have is $125,413,646. And that is in different areas of revenue, including local revenue. As a reminder, local revenue are the ones that come in locally. Our taxes, our ticket sales, salvages, all of those that are here locally. The next one is state revenues, and those are the FSP payments from TEA. The next one is $5,900, those are federal revenues, and those are our TRS on behalf payments. Although it says federal, it is a contribution from TEA into our local funds. And then transfers in and out. Transfers in mean that we're moving from 199 into 162. And so we're recording those as a revenue source. So 161, 162, and 163 are our band, choir, and our athletics. So we're moving out of 199 and into those funds, so that's a revenue source. And then fund balance means that we are gonna get from our fund balance to supplement that. And you're gonna see two numbers in there. Child nutrition is going to be using down some of their fund balance as requested by TEA to complete that budget. That's in Fund 101. And in 161 through 199, we do have a fitness grant that has a remaining balance of $14,608. That one, we do want to bring it back from the original budget into our next year's proposed budget so that we can spend that out. And then after that fitness grant is done with, and it's at one campus, then we probably won't see that Fund 191 anymore. On the expense sides,
Mrs. Perez, before you continue with that, let me ask a quick question. And I know that we had an update on board docs. When I took the time this weekend to review the figures, and basically there was some discrepancies, totaling $49,000. And basically what it is on the original form that was provided to us under fund balance, child nutrition fund balance, there was a figure of $524,933, and in the amended paperwork, it's $475,933. So right there is a $49,000 difference. And then you look at the 161 to 199 general fund. In the
yes, you're
original one was a $14,268,250.
you're right.
And it was decreased. So can you,
you-
just question, what are those what is that $49,000 difference?
There is a $49,000 difference, and you're right, that number on the revenues for the record should be $10,001,770 as described on the first page, and you're right, I did change that one. $49,000 was in the 199 account, and that was for the child nutrition, and that's where you're gonna see that difference. We paid out in December $500 stipends out of local funds, and so I had to take that out. And so it's gonna affect that number, and I do apologize, you're absolutely right. That number should be $10,001,770, not $9 million.
Okay, now where are you looking at that 9 million again? Is it,
On the previous slide,
okay?
it should not be that number.
Okay, I got it.
But the total of $125,413,646
That
is
stays the
correct.
same, correct. Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am.
So the expenditures in all the various different functions, they do equal out to $125,413,646, I'm sorry. And the percentages are on the right because I do like looking at what the percentages are for each function level. And we'll go over that in our next few slides. So the revenue by source, this is where we see just how much we're getting from each of our revenue sources. So the bulk of it is definitely going to be from the state revenue. The next highest amount is our federal revenue. Those are the the local revenue, and then the federal revenue. And the last two being the transfers in and the fund balances. And those really are not normal to other school districts. Those are something that San Benito does because we have a different kind of budget. Ours is way more in-depth. On the next slide, the budget by object code. So we talked about how payroll costs should be between 75 to 85. This coming year, our payroll cost is going to be 70.59%. So that's very good. It does put us in a very good position to be able to sustain those raises for the next at least 2 years. That is nowhere near 85%, so that is a very good indication that we are budgeting those appropriately. And then on the next slide, the budget by function group. So we also talked about how we should have at least 50% of our budget allocated to instructional, and we do have it at 50.51. So as discussed, our budget is very good at least having that 50%. So the different groups are also noted on the bottom. And then if we can talk about our adopted to next year, this is just a comparison so that you can see what the difference is between what we adopted last year and what we are proposing for this year. And I'll go over the really large amounts just so that we're clear on what those differences are. So under 5,900, under federal revenues, we do have a decrease because our payroll is also decreasing on the local side. A lot of that is going to be supplanted over to our federal side, so the TRS on behalf payments are also going to be lowered. Under fund balance, we are not requesting fund balance to cover our tax payments, our debt service. This is probably the first time in many, many years that we have not had to use local funds to take care of our tax payments, which is really great. And then our transfers in and out are also due to not having to move money from local into debt service. So that also lowers the transfers in on the expenditures by 20%. Under 13, Function 13, Curriculum and Instruction, that is a significantly lower amount. We have all of our instructional coaches paid out of Function 13, and those are going to be paid out of ESSER 3 accounts, our federal funds that are coming up. Health service, that is also a COVID-related expense that we will be coding to ESSER 3 and freeing up those local funds. And that's in Function 33. Our plant and maintenance, all of our janitorial supplies will be coded out of ESSER 3 instead of local funds. And our data processing technology salaries will be coded out of ESSER 3 instead of local funds. And then our debt service, we just have a much lower debt service payment this year than we did last year.
You mentioned that plant maintenance
Yes, sir.
is the one that's going to be paid with ESSER funds?
For the janitorial supplies, yes.
Okay.
Specifically, Object Code 6315.
And that would be all the equipment, not the equipment, but the supplies that we use for COVID?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. So one of the requirements of TEA as the 83rd legislative session, Texas Education Code 28.0217, is that we do have to separately delineate what we are going to be using for end of course budget. So in front of you is what we have for extra duty for the 6 campuses, totaling $35,000. This is part of the budget already. It just, we need to be able to say this is what we're using it for. And then lastly are the required postings. These postings go up on our website. This is the first part of it, the second part. And it just lines out all of the function levels and what it was last year compared to what it was this year, and it gives a per pupil amount based on that group of functions. That is available online, as well as all of the previous years.
Ms. Perez, on this sheet here that you presented right now, were any numbers updated as well? Since you had to make some corrections on the other sheet, were
This
there any
is-
corrections on this one too?
This is complete with the $125 million total, the original amount, the one that's stated in the very beginning. So those did not have to be.
Okay, so I do have a question because I was comparing to other districts as well. We have here $48,000 for lobbying.
Yes.
What is that expense for?
We have a lobbyist who goes out to the state level during legislation, and they speak on behalf of San Benito. So they are there to be activists for our students.
And who is that?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that one of them is TASA and TASB. We do have to code those to, they have a percentage that they have to code to the lobbyist fee.
Okay, that was the next question, because I know that TASB does the lobbying for
Correct.
us. And so part of these expenses are what you all pay TASB?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was just curious, because I didn't see it in other districts, and so I wanted to know why we
Correct.
had it and they didn't. What was the difference? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then the last slide is the advertisement that we put in both the Valley Morning Star and the San Benito News. And that has to be done 10 to 30 days before our public hearing. And that was done on the weekend after, oh, it's supposed to be running, it was run on June 12th. So we did meet those requirements as well.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the budget by object code, you said we might increase pay raises for the next 2 years. What do you mean by increase?
No, I meant that we are at 70%.
Okay,
So for the next 2 years, whenever we discuss salaries for the next budget, then we are in a good area that we can
possibility.
still move forward without reservations on a very conservative amount.
All right.
So you're basically judging that on that 15% cushion?
Yes.
Where that threshold that we have between 70 to 85, we don't want to go over 85% of the budget
Correct.
for personnel, correct?
So how does our fund balance compare to the last 5 years?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that information, but I can get it for you. It fluctuates based on what the various needs are. And I know that in one of the years, it also counted a lot of our construction amounts. So it might not be a true picture if we're looking at just the numbers. When I get you that information, we can talk about what happened in that year, what projects we took care of that year, and what may have resulted as part of those differences in the fund balance. But since I began here, I do know that the fund balance was originally at $4 million. So it has increased over the last 5 from then until this year, which is at 21 million.
And it will be for, the projected for next year would be how much?
Tentatively, we are expecting at the very least 13.5 million to be increasing in our fund balance for this year. That won't be a final number until at the very, very latest, late October, early November, when our audit is done. But we do have quite a bit of money that is being supplanted from 199 into ESSER 1 and ESSER 3. So at the very, very least, 13.5 million increase on top of 21 million, $34 million.
Okay, and so you're supplanting some of that money from ESSER 3 funds and putting them into the general fund, which is gonna help us increase the general fund balance, like you said. However, when the ESSER funds are gone, when they're depleted, what is the plan to put funds back in there so that we don't have a low fund balance?
The funds will already be in the fund balance, and we do have a 3-year plan that does not, we're not just hitting all of these funds all at once. It will decrease from now until the end of the 3rd year, so that by the time we've already going back without ESSER funds, we will have already weaned ourselves off of those ESSER 3.
If I may, let me ask Dr. Carmen, can you refresh my memory? Dr. Carmen, did we not mention before that we were reserving a certain percentage of some of the ESSER funds for years to come, so that our general fund is actually a little bit more healthy?
Yes, sir, that's correct. For the current year, the 13.5 million that Mrs. Pettis is referring to is mostly ESSER 2, less our hold harmless that we know we're going to get hit with in September because they're supplanting at the state level for that, and then a small amount of ESSER 3. But going forward, it comes out to about 50%, about $7.5 million a year, más o menos. I mean, it's in that ballpark per year to be added into our fund balance or for the board to use on projects as they deem necessary.
Can we get a copy of where the ESSER funds are going?
Yes, that was in our last meeting. It's also available online.
Okay.
If you go under the finance department, there will be an ESSER,
Okay.
all of our ESSER 3 plans are all online.
Okay, I do have a few more questions. I didn't want to stop you while you were going through these sheets, so I didn't ask at that point. But if we are looking at the instruction, the teacher pay, I'm assuming that's what it is, right? The 11, that's the instruction, is that the teacher pay?
That's not just the pay, that's actually all of materials, supplies, contracted services, and the pay.
Okay. And I was asking because there was a 2.8 something increase, however, the raise is going to be a 3.5%, so I was wondering why there was that difference there.
That could be that we did have attrition on some of our staffing, so it could be a lot of it in the function 11 side, so the teachers. I'm not saying that that's what it is specifically, but I can look into it for you. And
Okay.
again, this is just a budget. It's not the actual expenses. So these are just estimates of what we're going to spend in the next year.
Okay, all right, and the next question is, as I recall correctly, if I recall correctly, I had asked about the budget being adjusted to the number of students that we have lost. So we lost over 500 students, and if I'm correct, I remember you saying, well, when we come up with the new proposed plan, it'll be based I guess decreasing whatever it would be for those 500 kids that we lost. But when I compare the 2021 year to the 21-22 year, the numbers are very similar. There's not a big difference there. So can you explain that to me, please?
Yes, TEA has given us a number of 9,049. That is our hold harmless number. So TEA will not give us less than the amount for those 9,049 students. So we could budget under, but we would be shortchanging our students if we know that they're not gonna go with that number. They're gonna give us more. So I went with the TEA hold harmless.
So to clarify, I think we discussed this once before, Mrs. Perez, the 9,049 students, that's basically what they're looking at are, because of hold harmless, that is our enrollment number, correct?
That
Or
is the number that they will fund us on.
For ADA?
Correct.
Okay.
That's not our enrollment, that is not our ADA, that is the amount of students that they will fund us on. Yes.
Any more questions from any of our board members?
Just a second,
No problem.
just making sure I'm not forgetting something. Do you know, there was a proposal for us to get more funds, federal funds, and I know that Senator Lucio was working on that. Do you know the status on that?
Not off the top of my head. I was prepared to present the local budget, but I can look into those federal funds.
Okay, well, I mean, you have federal revenue on here, so I was wondering if any of that was part
No.
of what they were gonna give you.
That's TRS on behalf, that's just in the local fund.
Just TRS.
TRS on behalf, correct.
Okay, and I don't know what TRS on behalf is. Can you explain that to me too? I'm sorry.
Sure, that's okay.
I don't know, a lot of
That's
this
the
stuff,
amount
hey,
that
guys,
TRS
there's a
will
lot to know.
pay. That's the amount that TRS will reimburse the district for paying on our insurances. So that amount they give to us. So it is just an entry on the books, because it washes out after they don't actually physically give it to us, but we do record it as an expense and a revenue.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ms. Perez.
Yes, so I just want to clarify that The revenues is at 125,413,646, as are the expenses. I do apologize for that typo on there. Thank you.
And will you be putting this same booklet that you gave us for the public to view? I know that you say you're going to put that sheet that had the two different colors, but do you all put this also?
We don't normally.
No?
This one, the one that was on the yellow and blue is a TEA requirement, so that satisfies the needs of our informational.
Okay, all right.
Portion of it.
And just for the community to know, where will you be placing this information?
Under the finance section of the website, there is a budgets tab on there.
Okay. I know it was recommended at one of the trainings I went to have it easily accessible somewhere in one of the front pages, so that way they don't have to click too much to get there, but that's just an FYI for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pettis, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for preparing this, this budget for us. And at this point, if there are no further questions, I need a motion to approve the 2020-2021 final amended budget.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye, but raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to agenda item 2.2. No, hold on, I'm on the wrong one. No, that's a special board meeting. Hold on, guys. Never mind, we're moving on to 3.1, adjournment. Do I have
Mr. Moreno, if I could real quick, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
So the public hearing is not when y'all will get to approve the budget. There's just the presentation. During the specially called meeting is when the agenda item is there for y'all to approve it. We're happy that you're ready to approve it, but it just has to be on.
I stand corrected. I appreciate that, Dr. Carmen, and I
Yes, sir.
do see that now. I was looking at the wrong agenda. So it's 2.1, discussion on adopting the budget for 2021, 2022, discussion purposes. So at this point, then, we move on to the adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn this?
And Mr. Moreno, if I might add something, it doesn't hurt to,
ahead.
that the board is in approval of it, but the actual approval will be in the next meeting. Or the consideration of it, that is.
Correct. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Medrano and a second by Mr. Lopez. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Stevens. All right, this meeting is adjourned at 5:59.